This is like a $2 billion company. So the company that owns that company is a private equity company in New York. I don't remember the name of it. They've since sold off that portion. But so this big company is like the $130 billion company that owns things like, electrical facilities and like dams and like these massive infrastructure things. So this huge company owned this HVAC company that was a small part of their sort of portfolio. So, and the guy that ran that private equity company put his phone number on the internet. He literally, so I found out who ran it, and it was this Australian guy, and his name was Chris, I think. And yeah, literally, the number was just sitting there at Google. I was like, is this really this guy's cell number? Because I had no chance of contacting the HVAC company that really owned it. So you're getting frontline staff. It's a multi-thousand person company. You're getting like low level people. I'm never getting through to essentially the upper levels. So I remember it was like cold. It was, I was standing in the parking lot, and then I had this guy's cell phone number, and I thought, fuck it, right? So I dialed the guy's number, and it rang and rang and rang and rang and rang. Nothing. Okay, that didn't go through. So, 2-3 days later, I call again, ring, 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 nothing. Okay, that didn't go through. So 4 days later, I try again. He picks up, hello, or however Australians talk. Hello, this is Chris here, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, that I actually got a hold of him. I was like, hey, I just wanted to, I was just kind of like very casual about it. Like I wasn't super aggressive about it. I just said, I kind of explained who we were. We were like a very small version of what you own that basically covers the rest of Canada, but not the province that we're in. Right. So we're like a little micro version of what you own. And I just kind of threw it out there, like maybe there's some sort of way that we can work together. I didn't talk about getting bought out. I just sort of put ourselves on the map. I kind of put myself on their radar. If they didn't even know about us before, at least they know who we are. And then he says, so he gets in this really great conversation, great guy to deal with, blah, blah. We're talking back and forth. And then he goes, you know what? I'm going to get the CEO to call you tomorrow. So I was like, so sure enough, 12 p.m. the next day, the CEO of this $2 billion HVAC company calls me on my cell phone. And then I started talking to him from there. So it's like, I couldn't get past I couldn't get past their like low level staff to try to, get through to anybody. I couldn't get past their phone operators, sitting in an office in Toronto. So I bypassed all of it. I went to the company that owned the company, and he says, I'm going to get the CEO to call you. It's like, boom. And it actually happened. Right. So I think the lesson there is, again, when you want to sell your business, think about who would want to buy your business, do some research, find out, and go after them. Put yourself on the map. Just say, hey, this is who I am. This is what we do.
Welcome to the Results Grow podcast for home service professionals, where we chat with business owners and experts to discover what's delivered results to grow and succeed in their business. And now, your hosts, Steve Gatsby and Carrie Blackburn.
Hey, Carrie and Steve here from the Results Grow podcast. Today, we're going to kind of take off from where we left off in our last podcast there, asking Steve about how he grew his business. But today, I want to talk to him and ask him all these questions about how he sold his business, how he prepared the business to get to the point where it would be sellable, to where it would be another business would want to buy it. So it becomes a valuable thing that some other business would want to buy. So Steve, how's it going there?
Good. How's it going there? I'm in Ontario. I'm at my family's house out here in Ontario, or my in-laws' house. You are in BC, Maybridge. Is your air conditioner still broken?
Yes, it is. Some company installed it and they didn't do a good job with it.
So my company installed air conditioner a number of years ago. So we'll find out. He has somebody else coming out to come and fix it. So we'll find out if that was installation error. We'll find out if that was my fault or not. So
I don't, or it's just a specific manufacturer who has dud compressors.
Yeah, one of those two things. Who knows? We'll find out. So
Yeah.
yeah. So the whole point of you don't have to watch part one. This is kind of like part two. So part one is just like stories from like the early days, getting it going, grinding it out, getting the ball, getting some momentum. So the whole focus of this is if you ever have thoughts or plans or dreams that you want to sell your HVAC company, or you want to build up an HVAC company to sell. So I'll just walk you through, or Carrie will ask some questions towards this. I'll walk you through some kind of points or some ways to kind of frame thinking about that so that you can, work towards selling your business, your HVAC business at some point in time. So that's the purpose of it. Let's help you if you want help towards that.
All right. So we ended the last podcast somewhere around 2010, 2011. At that time, were you even considering setting up your business to sell it?
No, it kind of never was. Like the thing that I was sort of fixated on, I wanted, at that time I called it like passive income, but really like it's like recurring monthly income. So I just wanted to create a machine that pumped out cash on a month-to-month basis that I could essentially then turn. Like my whole thought was have Canada Furnace as sort of like this revenue money engine, and then I'd take that money and I would go and invest in other things like real estate, or invest in other businesses. Or that was also part of the dream. I wanted different kinds of businesses, multiple kinds of businesses. It actually wasn't the plan to sell it, or that wasn't a thought until much later. So
All right. And so at that time, had you purchased the original building that you were in?
Oh yeah, we that got purchased super early on. That was like I'd say 2008 or something like that. So in the long run, the real estate is worth, there's eventually 4 pieces of real estate that got purchased, like light industrial, and that is worth as much as the business ever was. So yeah, like side note, purchase the real estate that you're in, don't lease it or move to some place that you can purchase it, and then just pay a mortgage instead of paying rent. That's pretty obvious advice. And then also don't keep the real estate in the business that you're in. Have that as a separate LLC or a separate limited company, so that when you sell the business, you don't have to sell the real estate. So the company that bought my company actually still leases from me in the space. So that was like 6 years ago or something like that.
So what made you decide to? I mean, you just kind of laid that out, that to pay a mortgage instead. But did you, at the point, you could have leased it, or you decided to buy it? I mean, what made you decide to buy it early on? Because obviously you weren't at the revenue level that you were later on, but there must have been some trepidation about going to buy the building instead of leasing it.
No, I just always really liked real estate. So this also applies to residential. Like I don't like, if you're in a place that somebody else, and I know like probably most of the world doesn't agree with this concept, but it's like, oh, you got more to worry about. Yeah, you got more to worry about. But if I'm in somebody else's space and it's like, do I need to ask permission to drive a nail in the wall? Do I need to? I hate it. I hate the feeling of being controlled in somebody else's space. So hell no, I just want to own it. And many times we leveraged everything up until the point that it was just, it was almost impossible to make it, but then you leverage yourself up, and we did it again and again and again, residentially and commercially. And that's turned out to be the right play over the last 20 years.
Was your business paying you a lease then?
Was my business well, no, so Canada Furnace was paying rental payments back to my company that I owned, real estate in. So I was paying myself. That was just
Right.
an accounting thing, essentially. But yeah, we were paying like normal market rates back to ourselves. And then when I sold the business, then the company that took over, that bought us out, was paying the money back.
But that was your second building though, right?
That was number 3 and 4. So the buildings 1 and 2 never got sold. Those are now rented out to one's a mechanical company and one's a roofing company or something.
All right. So to kind of move on from that, let's say those years between 2011, 2015, what did you do to ramp it up that actually had a beneficial effect for you to be able to sell that business in 2017?
So I think the early days are just a grind. It's like a scramble. You're doing everything yourself. You're like, it's just a mad scramble. But once you kind of got the business stabilized, and I would say like once we were doing like, $1.5 million, something like that, you have like the basic components of like a small HVAC company. You have somebody in the office, right, taking phone calls. You have either a subcontract bookkeeper or a part-time bookkeeper. You have somebody doing sales. I was still doing sales at that point in time. Or all the sales. That was the hardest thing to sort of delegate off, or I thought it was. You have somebody doing service, you have somebody doing installs, so you have the basic components of like a little install company. So, and this is I see a lot of contractors or a lot of business people in general making this mistake. They say like almost word for word, well, whoever I hire is bums. I just can't get somebody that can do it as good as I can. Essentially, I've heard that so many times, and they're dead on right. They can't. Whoever they hire won't be as good of a service guy, won't be as good of an installer, won't even be as good as you in the office, 100%. But you need to find great people, use your gut, use your instinct, and then let them struggle and let them develop over time. And you'll find in 6 months, 8 months, they're better than you ever could have been, right? So it's like this was a mistake I made. Like I wish I pushed myself doing this sooner. So I thought I was like, the world's greatest service guy. Like, okay, I can fix anything and whatever else. So I kind of hung on to that, but no, give it away. And then I had 4 service guys that were way better than I ever was at repairing equipment. As an installer, I realized later you could replace me with somebody making $20 an hour. I'm not a great installer. Right. So, and then I thought I was the only person that could sell at a high percentage until, I essentially just sort of took it how I did it, which was just a simplified way of sort of selling with a calendar close, like this very specific system. I taught it to a secretary who hadn't done sales before. She ended up selling way more than I did, right? A way higher percentage. So the biggest thing you got to do, and this is like, it feels like you're diving off a cliff, but every process in the company, you got to get it off yourself. You got to get somebody else doing it, and you got to let them struggle. So if every time they're struggling, you step in and you're going to be their parent, and you're going to be, oh no, here, let me take this back off you. Let me help you out here. Let me do your job for you. No, you push it to them. They struggle. They don't know what to do. You let them struggle. You let them, like, it seems like they're going to drown, but they don't drown. They swim to the surface. The strong ones do. Other ones, they want to quit because they can't handle the pressure. But let people struggle, let people develop, and the whole team gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And then that backs you up so that your business is running independent of you, which is your whole goal. That's what creates a sellable business in the end. You want your business running without you.
No, whether you're there or not, is what you're saying.
Exactly. So if you have to constantly step in and do the job that should be delegated, that's not really a sellable business. So there's two big components of you creating your sellable HVAC business that makes it attractive to other people to want to buy it. One is, if you're doing the whole job, they can't buy you, right? Whoever wants to buy you, they can't buy you. They can buy a functioning machine, right? So that has to be running separate from you. So that took till probably like year 7 or something to get to that. Before the machine was sort of essentially operating without me. The only thing that would get through to me is the worst problems, right? So it's like, somebody, we damaged somebody's house, somebody's lost their shit, and the person on the phone just can't handle them anymore, or even that was really, I didn't get involved in that too much, but I would personally go through every expense on every invoice every month, which I still do at this company. It's like, so there's some things you don't want to delegate, you want to watch pretty close, but essentially you need it running independent of you.
Right. So you need to put the systems in place that can run without you, and that it shouldn't be you that's the valuable part of the business. It should be the business that you created with the systems you created.
Well, specifically to that, so that the whole system thing's kind of interesting. So have you read that E-Myth book? No,
I haven't read that one.
Michael Gerber. So there's a really famous book called E-Myth. So it's like, you create all these systems and you create this manual, and then you hire these people and you get them to work the manual. And I tried that. And it's kind of a bunch of crap. It's not totally accurate. So it's like people don't want to follow, the best people don't want to follow inside these rigid little systems. The best people want to come up with their own systems, right? So have amazing people, have amazing partners, have amazing people in the business, tell them what needs to happen and let them develop their own processes and own systems. They will build it for you. You don't have to tell them, well, then send this email at this time. People, they're not machines. They're not robots that will follow instructions like that. The good people, they're smart. A lot of them are, it's like they will come up with their own way of doing things that's better than you could have come up with. So.
Right. So with the processes in place, right, it's still at that point where you have, I always use this crazy field of dreams thing, is that if you build it, they will come. Well, you built this thing. How did you get the clients to come so that you had this client base that was profitable, that was desirable for another business to come along and buy it?
Well, Kerry's almost asking himself this question. So Kerry, so the backstory is, we probably covered this in other videos, but Kerry ran my marketing for me, right? So we got into that together quite early. And essentially, so long before this company, Results Grow, like long before doing what we're doing right now, we spent 7-8 years together figuring this out, how to drive the cheapest possible leads. And it's a constantly evolving, difficult challenge on how you bring in the cheapest possible lead. So, our cost per lead was, relative to industry standards, it was crazy cheap. I mean, our cost per lead in terms of all of our lead sources divided by all the leads that came in, I think we brought in like 1,500 leads on like 1,500, 1,600 leads. I think like if you took all of our marketing expense and you divide it by the number of leads, we were $50-$60 a lead, something like that. Like our marketing expenses were minuscule, but that was me and Kerry. And a lot of times, Kerry will just have some inspiration. No, we got to change this. We got to go this direction. And like just this push and pull and changing and shaping and, web and basically, all sorts of different leads. We had 10 different lead sources, and it was constantly figuring out how to drive the highest volume of the best, cheapest leads we can, which is essentially all that we do at this company. That's all that we do for other companies now, is that one specific component. So, how did we get customers was it's a constant ongoing battle, which a lot of contractors don't want to deal with, which makes us handy to hundreds of contractors now, is that's what we do. So that's a side note, bit of a plug for our company, but
right. So when you were building your business, I mean, we hear this now from a lot of contractors, business owners, that they say, oh, I can't compete. I'm in a big city. I can't compete with all these big businesses here that have been around a long time. And for you, you weren't in the downtown area of, we'll say Vancouver, because that's where it was. Yep. You were out in the suburbs, but you were like, if I remember right, you wanted to dominate the whole area. And what are your thoughts on that? I mean, you just decided, like, some are so afraid to do that. You were like, no, we're dominating the whole area. I mean, what made you think to do that?
That's probably just, anybody that has, a business and is ambitious probably thinks the same way. They want to go try to take over the world in some sort of way. So it was also, that was specific to SEO, worked a lot better at the time for local businesses. So now other things, it's a constantly evolving things, that now other stuff works better than SEO, in my opinion. But that goal specifically was ranking organically, and in map searches in all the different cities. So it's like, if we were 1 hour outside of Vancouver, we were ranking number one in Vancouver organically. We were ranking number one in Richmond, which was an hour away, or number one in North. We were number one in like every possible city that we could be number one in every category that we want to be number one in. But we started pushing on that in like 2007. Now the value of that, you can still do it, right? But the value of it is much, much less. And I think your money is better spent doing other stuff, which, Kerry, I'm sure you'll agree, like your whole business got uprooted from focusing on SEO to switching over, probably because of local businesses. We can go into all sorts of details, but it's like all these other things get stacked on top, like, map searches and everything else. And it pushes the organic rankings down under, a ton of other stuff. But But yeah, that was kind of the number one rank, and that helped a lot. We were also in early on Google Ads. So, we were, so 2007, it was like us and like one other company pushing on Google Ads. You're getting like $1 per click for, need a air conditioning repair or, new AC or whatever else. Now it's probably $75 for that same click. So,
Oh yeah.
but the same opportunity exists on new platforms. You just got to keep moving away in different directions than the crowd is going, and just got to keep a bit ahead of everybody.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, if a business were to list the priorities of what their marketing should be, SEO shouldn't be anywhere in the top 5 now, in my opinion, because it's just too expensive, takes too long, and very difficult to really get any results because of the way Google now formats their search engine results page, is that they really push as many organic listings down as possible, and they love the big businesses. They love the Yelps. They love the home advisors. I don't know what it is there, and I'm not trying to say any kind of conspiracy theory, but it is kind of, it is very difficult to outrank those, and the fact that people now have to scroll down to get to where they need to go. And you're right, and I believe that you're better off having a system now, and I'm not trying to take over the conversation, a system now where you have a way to do paid advertising and bring it in, and have a infrastructure for how to bring in that paid advertising using a Google Ads campaign or whatever type of campaign, or Facebook ads, Instagram ads campaign, whatever, with good converting landing pages in your website. So not to get
just
too deep
kind
into
of
that.
expand on what you're saying here. So I'm near Toronto right now. So looking at Toronto. So here's the problem. Like, let's say you rank number one. Let's say you spend a ton of money and you're ranking number one SEO in Toronto, like one of the biggest cities in the world, right? You should be killing it, right? So here's the problem. So here's Google guaranteed. So you're underneath this whole section. You're going to lose, I don't know, 40% of people are going to click somewhere in here. They're going to click here. Okay. Then you got ads, right? Google ads are great. Puts you up here, so you're not in the ads. Okay, that's fine. And then you have a bunch more.
You're actually above there. If you scroll up a bit there, Steve, if you look here, so you've got sponsored EnterCare, and then the first unsponsored one there, Atlas Care.
That's actually kind of weird, because normally this even comes underneath the map. So if let's say you don't make it into here, 1, 2, right, which is extremely hard, then you got maps. How many people do you think are going past this, past the sponsored, past the maps, and then you have like these lead gen companies who that's all they do is SEO. So you're way down here. Nobody's scrolling down there. So you just spent thousands of dollars to get way down here. If you go back to 2010, even, a lot of this stuff wasn't here. You had ads and then you had organic. So like they're making it less and less valuable to even rank number one in the different areas. But so that's kind of a side note. I don't believe in organic as much as I used to.
Yeah, neither do I. I mean, I built a whole business based on that at one point, and it's just not where it was. But it'd be an interesting story one day to go back to how you and I met and how that almost never happened that day. So we'll have to talk about that some other day. But from there, I know that you started to move towards doing rent to own equipment.
So this is probably, if there's two big things, so this is kind of the second big thing, remove yourself from everything that's functioning, because the business needs to run by itself. You will always get pulled back in different sorts of ways, but that's how your business is malfunctioning, is how you're getting sucked back into it. So that's kind of one, and that's hard for people to get their head wrapped around, because they think they're the best at everything. And the truth is, you can hire other people that are better at you than virtually everything. You need to be good at seeing the whole game and seeing everything move forward. But so the second part of that is the other biggest thing that makes your company more valuable is recurring monthly revenue that is not dependent on you selling more and more jobs. So our whole business currently is we charge a flat monthly fee for contractors to essentially work with us. So our goal is we want to help as many contractors as we can. So our recurring monthly revenue, but the monthly revenue is coming in automatically unless somebody cancels. So what we did, which was unique, actually so the story is we were walking around the trade show in Vancouver. This was, I don't know what year this was. Let's call it 2014 or something like that. And then we saw somebody renting water heaters. I think renting, what are you talking about renting water heaters? And they were renting water heaters for $65 for like a tankless water heater. And then we started to kind of do the math on that. So like we kept probing them and digging at them. They're like, yeah, it's like a forever rental. It they can buy it out, and there's a buyout schedule, and the buyout goes down, buyout schedule goes down a little bit each year. There's a bunch of complexity to it, but at the end of the day, it's passive recurring income that you got to pay out of pocket to initially install it, and you got to pay to service it every month. But let's say you're bringing in, on that tankless, whatever it was, $800 per year or whatever the number was in perpetuity, and you have to service it, you got to maintain it. So after 10 years, that's brought in, whatever it's brought in, what would that be? Who knows?
It's probably 2x of what the actual cost of it was.
The numbers that we kind of crushed out, we like basically paid the equipment off and paid off all the installation costs within about, say, 3 years. And then it was just all gravy, right? So everything above and beyond there. So we basically built up this portfolio of, I don't know, a couple hundred, or I don't remember the exact numbers, 200 and something, basically pieces of rental equipment that we just financed out of our own profits. So we took money that we earned, we invested it back into.
We got to run in.
No, not at all. That's Nana. That's my mom-in-law.
Mama who he loves.
Mama who he loves. I've been corrected. So essentially we just financed out of pocket, to get these pieces of rental equipment. So sometimes there's a water heater, sometimes it was a whole system. We had some commercial things. So, we would pay X thousands of dollars out of pocket to basically put these things in, and we'd convert that into recurring monthly revenue for us. So, so we had this portfolio of I don't exactly remember the numbers, tens of thousands of dollars of money that was coming to us every single month passively. And we thought that was pretty good. And it also gave us a bit more stability because it was just money that was coming in no matter what. We could, have a bad month, but we still have some money coming in. And then we built up a portfolio of, and we should have started this way sooner, of essentially service agreements, but not service agreements where you need to resell it every year. I think we sold it between, $15 and $20. And it was like to service your furnace and to come out if it needed repair, we come and repair it. And that would just be every single month, and we got whatever the number, X hundreds of those or something like that, coming in every month. So again, passive income, passive income, passive income. So you want this huge portfolio, the biggest portfolio you can of passive income coming into the business. And that creates something that's much more attractive to somebody, an outside person that wants to buy the business.
So my question on that is, when you're doing rent to own, the initial cost would be out of the business's pocket. And thinking about how many would be installed and when that money would be paid back, how did you get the money together, your initial capital, to get that equipment, do the installs? And because that's a lot of money up front.
It was, yeah. It was hard. We ended up like just draining our accounts constantly. Like I remember the first one that I sold, we made an agreement up. We didn't know if it was possible. We advertised it. We got a lead. I went to somebody's house, and then it was so awkward. It was like, and it's $57 a month, and instantly they go, "Yep, no, sounds good," right? And they, I explained the system, I explained the process, I went over their bio agreements, all this kind of stuff. And then instantly they were like, yep, no problem, right? It was like, whoa, this is interesting, right? It's actually not difficult to sell, right? So, and then we had to evolve and expand, like stuff like we had to learn how to register securities on people's houses so that if they moved, we don't lose, the asset type thing, or it has to get bought out. We had to learn how to do credit checks on people. We got burned once where somebody wasn't credit checked properly, and we just got scammed. It was like on a water heater, so relatively small expense. But there's a bunch of processes to it. But the bigger, broader moral of the story is you want as many recurring monthly automatic payments coming into your business as you possibly can, and which is not easy to build, and it's very outside the normal stream of your business. But you're right, we burned up all kinds of cash, and then we went to the bank, who gave us a loan not based on the rental program, just because of the strength of the business. They're like, I don't really understand what you're doing, but customers, from a customer perspective, they understand it. From a bank perspective, they really don't understand it. So they're like, are you reloaning their money? They don't understand. And so, they gave us another, whatever, 100K, 150K. Then we went to another bank and they gave us some money. So we ended up borrowing a bunch of the money. But the debt servicing was, whatever it was, half or 1/3 of what the money coming in was. So it didn't really matter. Like, as a business, it's a beautiful business. So.
All right. So when you did those agreements, was there a term on it, or was it like forever?
Yeah, the structure of it. And again, it's been, 5 years or whatever since I got out of that stuff. But it was essentially, it had a buyout schedule. So they always had the option to buy it out, and the buyout would go down a little bit each year. So if they really want to get rid of it, no problem, they can get rid of it. So the buyout schedule, say it goes down over like 15 years, right? Like the life of the equipment. But otherwise, the rental payment would just stay the same. It would just be an ongoing thing. So most of the time, people don't want to spend, $7,000 out of pocket to buy out something that they only have to spend, $60 on the next payment. So most of the time plus they get other protections, like, we service it every year. If it ever breaks down, they don't got to worry about it. It's just not their problem. It just wasn't done really in British Columbia yet. So we were the first people that I know of to kind of scale it up in BC, and it's bigger in other provinces. Like, it's bigger in Ontario, it's bigger in other areas. So.
All right. So was there, how do I put it? How did you deal with the fact that you could possibly do these installs in places that you may never get money out of? And then it's not like you can go knock on the door and say, hey, we're coming to take the hot water tank back.
It's based on it's based on credit worthiness. It's like, why does a bank loan some people money that they take, like it's the same thing. So we set that bar at 625, which we ended up getting less than 1% default rate on a credit score of 625. So there's I remember pulling some people's credits, and it was like 400 and stuff like this, or 425, and it's like, guaranteed you are never getting your money back, or guaranteed they will not open the door if you need to. So plus we actually registered a security against the house, which allowed us to, it protected our downside. So eventually they're going to have to clear that security off of their house, and we would get paid at some point in time. So we're protected via the credit score a little bit, and then we're protected by registering security. So,
right, because I can remember being with you the one time, and I was in your car or truck, and we went to the middle of nowhere because I guess you had a problem with one of these installs where somebody wasn't paying, and I thought it was like the movie Deliverance where we were going, right? It's like the middle of nowhere. I don't know if you remember that.
We went to it together. I don't remember this. Was this in Abbotsford or something?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I think that was the one that we got burned on. It was like this was before that we figured out to do a check on the house for who was the owner of the property. So we made some mistakes early on. So one of them was make sure the person that signed the agreement owns the bloody house. And it turned out, I think that one was like, it was like a renter or something. It was like, I don't know why the renter would have gone through all that, but it's like we basically sold into a renter. So that was one of the early errors on it.
Yeah, I was just like, we're going on these windy roads in the middle of nowhere. I'm going, this is interesting here.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But anyway, so when did you first have the thought of possibly selling your business?
I contacted, so I tried to contact the biggest company in the world, or the biggest rental company, HVAC rental company in the world, which is based in Canada. So I got through to like their customer support, or I got through to like their 1-800 number, and that went absolutely nowhere. So I tried that a couple of times, didn't go anywhere. So This is like a $2 billion company. So the company that owns that company is a private equity company in New York. I don't remember the name of it. They've since sold off that portion. But so this big company is like the $130 billion company that owns things like, electrical facilities and like dams and like these massive infrastructure things. So this huge company owned this HVAC company that was a small part of their sort of portfolio. So, and the guy that ran that private equity company put his phone number on the internet. He literally, so I found out who ran it, and it was this Australian guy, and his name was Chris, I think. And yeah, literally the number was just sitting there at Google. I was like, is this really this guy's cell number? Because I had no chance of contacting the HVAC company that really owned it. So you're getting frontline staff. It's a multi-thousand person company. You're getting like low level people. I'm never getting through to essentially the upper levels. So I remember it was like cold. It was, I was standing in the parking lot, and then I had this guy's cell phone number, and I thought, fuck it, right? So I dialed the guy's number, and it rang and rang and rang and rang and rang. Nothing. Okay, that didn't go through. So 2-3 days later, I call again, ring, 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 nothing. Okay, that didn't go through. So 4 days later, I try again. He picks up, hello, or however Australians talk. Hello, this is Chris here, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, then I actually got a hold of him. I was like, hey, I just wanted to, I was just kind of like very casual about it. Like I wasn't super aggressive about it. I just said, I kind of explained who we were. We were like a very small version of what you own that basically covers the rest of Canada, but not the province that we're in. Right. So we're like a little micro version of what you own. And I just kind of threw out there, like, maybe there's some sort of way that we can work together. I didn't talk about getting bought out. I just sort of put ourselves on the map. I kind of put myself on their radar. If they didn't even know about us before, at least they know who we are. And then he says, so he gets in this really great conversation, great guy to deal with, blah, blah. We're talking back and forth. And then he goes, you know what? I'm going to get the CEO to call you tomorrow. So I was like, so sure enough, 12 p.m. the next day, the CEO of this $2 billion HVAC company calls me on my cell phone. And then I started talking to him from there. So it's like, I couldn't get past I couldn't get past their like low level staff to try to, get through to anybody. I couldn't get past their phone operators, sitting in an office in Toronto. So I bypassed all of it. I went to the company that owned the company, and he says, I'm going to get the CEO to call you. It's like, boom. And it actually happened. Right. So I think the lesson there is, again, when you want to sell your business, think about who would want to buy your business, do some research, find out, and go after them. Put yourself on the map. Just say, hey, this is who I am. This is what we do. And so that kind of created this sort of ongoing thing. They actually flew out, they met with us. We told them a bunch about our business, and then nothing happened. Right. So I thought, okay, that's over. That was kind of a fun little side road. Went back to business, growing the business. The business kept growing. The business kept doing good. And then it was like a long time later. It was like a couple of years or something like that later. They basically just called us up, and they're like, we want to buy the business. So it's like, but all of it, the genesis of it was that basically us proactively reaching out and contacting them, putting ourselves on the map, is what long-term created the sale of the business.
So you weren't sitting back waiting for somebody to call you then?
No, and I would strongly suggest, if you you want to have your business sold, well, there's a few big parts to it. It's give your maximum recurring monthly revenue, so that you're not just under the gun every month. So it makes your business more stable. Get yourself away from doing all the different parts and pieces of the business, and then go after the people that you think might buy the business and get yourself put on the map. Right? No matter how scary it is, no matter how much you don't want to do it, because I went through that. It was like scary as hell, but it was a wild experience. Right? So,
did you have any offers from any other companies?
funny enough, as soon as I almost wonder if there was like leaks about what was coming. Like this is right when it was going to be sold. Like I have a feeling that like maybe, who knows, somebody involved, lawyers or somebody involved, they kind of leak some details. Oh, this company's going to buy Canada Furnace, blah, blah, blah. And I'd say, I think two, one was pretty serious, of like private equity companies, and other ones that started sniffing around. And my response to them is, I can't give you details, but this deal is going to close in like no time. So if you're serious about making an offer, do it pretty fast, right? Because it's like this thing was already going down the road and it was going to close and everything else. So I think it could have got sold in a few different ways. I think like the whole industry had started to change, where it maybe started to consolidate and pick up these businesses in these different areas. So there was other companies coming at the end when the word got out. So
how difficult were the negotiations?
It wasn't the negotiations. The negotiations were fairly straightforward. What was hard was, so when they actually made, they said, okay, let's do it. They're kind of making this official. They went into due diligence, which is fine. Just give them a bunch of information. My God, I was on vacation and they sent over basically this list. It had to be 500 things, right? So it was unbelievable. And I just attacked it for months. I took two people on the team and I said, okay, we are the team. If it didn't sell, I didn't want to bring everybody else into the loop. I didn't want to stir the pot too much with everybody. So, so it basically just took two people that were kind of core to me. And I said, okay, it's the three of us working on this. And it just took months and months and months and months to gather every little bit of information that we possibly could and keep sending it over. It was hard. It was a hard, long process.
So when the deal was agreed upon, and then it came time for you to sign that agreement, how difficult was it for you to sign that, thinking, what am I doing? Am I doing the right thing? Right?
One of the hardest parts, signing the agreement, that was just that wasn't a hard part. One of the hardest parts was the day of the actual. So it was sold, and then funds transferred, all that kind of stuff, and then it came in with like these weird people that were not part of the business. And I walk in the office, they had like basically everybody come in, like a team meeting, so we're all sitting around, and then there's these other people. Who are these other people? And I basically told everybody, that it sold. I actually started crying. It was I don't know why. I don't even know why, but it was like this sort of like this transition, this big turning point. And I was very connected with a lot of people there. So it was a hard thing to go through, because it's like, it was just kind of a tough transition, and it took time. It wasn't an easy thing. So
when they negotiated with you, did they ask you to stay on for a specific period of time, or did they want you to stay on for a long period of time?
There was earnouts built into it. So essentially, as I hit milestones and all this kind of stuff at like 6 months, at 12 months, whatever. So I'd never worked, like I'd been self-employed. I've been working for myself since I was like 22 years old, right? So probably 21. Like the only job I ever did for somebody else, like working at like a pizza delivery. It's like, I've essentially never worked for a big company. I've never worked for somebody else. I thought, in the back of my mind, I thought, hey, wouldn't that be cool working for this big company? And like, I could do some stuff. And what I relatively quickly learned is I really don't like it. I don't like working for other people. I like being my own boss, and there's a very clear reason why my life went this direction of being in charge of my own time. It also caused me a ton of stress, like, because I want to do the best possible job that I can. And it's like, and it taught me a lot about leadership, because it's like, I'm a big proponent, and this goes to our company, this goes to the previous company. I'm very effusive. There's probably a better word than that. I tell everybody constantly, if I think they're doing a good job, you're doing a great job. I love what you're doing. Fantastic. You're amazing. I do that constantly. Because it's like, if I'm working for somebody else, that's the type of thing that I need. I need to feel that kind of support. And I just found it very stressful. It's like I'd be working like crazy. I'd be working working my ass off. And it's like, I'm trying to like do the best job I possibly can. Like my anxiety level was like super high. It wasn't healthy for me. It wasn't good for me. And I think I made it like 6 months, and I walked away from a bunch of earnouts, they're called. And essentially it was right after that, me and you got into business, and we started launching this. So.
Right. Did you find afterwards that when you were as an employee that it was difficult to get anything approved and anything done in the corporate environment?
I found out, I learned a lot about how bigger businesses work. And I think this really applies to like all bigger businesses. And it's, in my opinion, it's not efficient. It's like, you want to keep your teams small and tight, and you want your decisions to be made like that. It's like, 2 days ago, me and you probably came up with some sort of idea, or 2 weeks ago, we're running with this AI app idea that we're working on right now. It's like, as soon as we think of something, we're running with it, and there is no brakes on it. There's no committees, nobody pushing back, and that's the fun of business. It's like being creative and moving things forward. There was a lot of things I didn't like about bigger company culture. It just didn't suit my personality. Some great people there. There's some impressive folks there, but yeah, it wasn't my jam.
It sounds very similar to the struggles that I had with trying to do the marketing for your company that you sold. With the new corporate structure of it, was very difficult. I won't get into the details of it, but it was difficult to get anything approved and done. Right?
Yeah, and we found that for like, it's I don't know there's some certain size. Like we have clients who are national clients now, and it's always more of a challenge. Like, we can show them, say, hey, these 5 states are crushing it compared to these other 5 states, but there's still like, there's so much bureaucracy that they can't make it so that we can run those same ads because of all these bureaucratic issues and whatever else. So it's, bigger companies are very challenging.
Yeah, I know, working with you when you were owning a business, it was, you'd come up with an idea, or I'd come up with an idea, and it would be implemented like right away. In the corporate structure of things, it's like, yeah, I got this idea, we'll get back to you.
Yeah.
And a month later,
I think it's just too far removed from the decision makers. Like, even like,
yeah.
Our company isn't huge right now. I think there's 22 of us, right? But it's like, every chance we can, I want the decision being pushed to people that should be making the decisions. Like, don't come to us and ask us permission to give a $200 refund to keep a customer happy or whatever. Like, just let's roll. Like, just everybody is empowered as much as we possibly can. If you centralize all the decision making, 2 things would happen. Me and you would constantly be firefighting all day long and doing other people's brain work for them. And we got a smart team. We got a good team. Like, let them be empowered to make their own decisions. Stop centralizing everything,
So just to finish up here. So when you decided to step away from that business, what was there a situation where you went, okay, now what?
Oh yeah. To be honest, it was actually, part of it was like kind of this euphoric feeling of freedom, which is cool. And part of it was like this lost sense of purpose. Like, I like that feeling of that you're in the cockpit and you're steering the plane. It's like, you got to make decisions. There's people counting on you. And like, I found that hard. Like, I like having a team around me. I like having the feeling that you're driving towards something, you're creating something, you're sculpting something. And it was like a total loss of that. So I think we got to do, I think the next podcast, we should do the whole start of this company and maybe frame it to how we can help people, if they're looking to do the same thing or whatever else. But that's kind of, that opens up the next chapter of sort of how we sort of formed this business.
But that was that first week, or like that next day you get up in the morning and you think, hey, what do I do today?
No, if I don't have a purpose, I sort of start to it's not good for me.
Yeah.
I start to get I do unhealthy stuff. I don't eat well. I need something going on. I need something to focus me, to ground me a little bit.
That was when you got to 350 pounds, though, right?
Yes, 750.
Oh, okay, 750. Right. And TLC came to do a reality show with you.
Yes,
right?
good burn, solid burn, solid burn.
So one last question. Was it weird, or is it still weird to see those trucks on the road thinking, you know what, you own that company at one time?
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing in the sense, like I still know a bunch of people like from the HVAC industry, or like having them enter that market changed the whole market in a sense. And like they don't like it. Probably like they don't like the outside competition coming in and changing their market. So it's sort of like they know that it was because of my company that sort of brought this outside for, and I kind of wonder, like, are they kind of pissy at me? that sort of brought this competitor in from outside. So
a greedy jerk. He sells and thieves, right? Just when I was beginning to like him.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a great market. BC is a fantastic market, like in terms of margins and everything else. I think people that do struggle in the market don't realize how good of a market it is. It's easier to sell. Like we've seen every market every bigger and medium-sized market in the US and Canada. We're in every single one. And maybe Seattle is a little bit comparable, like easier to sell, lots of demand, higher prices. But Vancouver, BC, very, very special market, and people should not complain about the difficulty there if anybody's struggling in that market.
Yeah.
Move to Miami and sell your equipment for $3,700 and try to make a living.
Oh, that was that's interesting because before you and I got into business, my previous business, I had a client who was in Washington, and a heating and air conditioning client. And after a hurricane in Florida, he went down there to help out to make some extra money. And then he looked at what the cost of buying equipment was in Florida compared to the cost of the equipment he was buying in Washington. The same equipment was way higher in Washington State than Florida. And he was saying to me, he says, I want to go down there with a big truck, buy a whole bunch of equipment, and drive it back to Washington.
They must sell it. They'd have to sell it cheaper. Like, how can you sell a system for $3,700? Like, you'd make $1. So
yeah, I thought, I wonder how. I don't know how these manufacturers do it, where they're able to say it's this much here and this much there, right?
Yeah.
No, but yeah,
that's a side note to growing your business. So it's like stop trying to make $20,000 on one system. Like you see these big companies and they're selling some astronomically high amounts. You don't have the brand recognition, you don't have the 50 years behind you. Sell it more than the guy working off a Craigslist, but less than a lot of your big competitors. Like go for volume. Stop trying to make a month's living off of one job. Add more value to the world than that. Try to put in 30, 40, 50 systems a month and make less money on each one. That's what the business gods or the universe wants you to do. They want you to provide value to other humans, and they will help you grow your business the more you can provide value to other people.
So is there anything you wanted to say kind of at the end of all this, when, to kind of help anybody out there who's got a business, whether it's heating and air conditioning, roofing?
Well, if anybody's still watching, I would say one of two options. Probably, find somebody to work with, like I found with Carrie, that we could nonstop worry 365 days a year about how to get the least expensive leads we can, and how to drive the biggest volume of leads, because your brain has to be wrapped around that. It has to be. We used to have a big scoreboard on our wall, and it had two things: how many leads we brought in that day and how many jobs we closed that day. And we compared it year over year, week over week. Are we trending up or are we trending down? Like, you got to worry about leads nonstop. So either find that or hire a company like us that can worry about that for you. You still got to worry about it nonstop. How are you going to bring in leads? You got to nonstop worry about it. But you can either partner with us or you got to figure out all the nuts and pieces yourself. So that's all that we do. We basically focus on what was the most important piece of the puzzle, how to drive the most number of leads. The other piece of the puzzle is the sales side. That's a whole other podcast, which I got a lot of opinions about, selling it in a very clean system.
Right. And would you say that it's important in finality here, it's important when you're owning a business to not try to be where the hats of everything else need, whether it's bookkeeping, accounting, marketing, any kind of legal, and trying to do all of those while trying to run your business?
Oh, don't do any of them, right? So, but you got to understand it. So, like, we had, went through 7 different bookkeepers till we found one that was amazing. Went through some different accountants till we found one that I really liked. But at the same time, I would constantly go over all the financials, all the numbers until I understood every single line on it. I don't understand to the level that an accountant does, even to where the bookkeeper does, but I can read the financials and I know what every single line means, and I know when something's a problem. But really, you can't count on them to worry about your numbers. We had our own internal things that we essentially ran like a little balance sheet each month. So like know where we're really sitting at with money, but there's all sorts of details we can go into, but it's like delegate off everything, but understand it yourself. So it's like, I could have been doing all the service. I could have been doing the installs. I could have been, I'm not a bookkeeper, but I understand what they're doing. Like, understand every piece of your business and delegate everything. And that's what's going to let you grow. Otherwise, if you're bound down constantly doing the job of somebody else, your business can't grow. It's like trying to drive with your foot in the brake.
I got one last thing I want to finish on, because I think it's one of the most brilliant things you ever did, is that the company that bought your business is still paying you every month for the lease on that building that you own.
They did a 5-year lease, and then they renewed last year, a year and a half ago or something like that. It could have been them, or it could have been another business. But I think the more important part of that was just not lump the real estate in with the business. Otherwise, I would have been forced to sell it. So now it's just it's just a recurring monthly revenue machine that, pumps out. And this is why I love real estate, passive income real estate. That just pumps out money every single month.
Yeah. So it's paying whatever mortgage you got on it plus profit.
It's just basically putting money in my bank account every month. And even that I delegated and automated. So my bookkeeper collects the rent, deposits into the bank account. So on between the 1st and the 3rd every month, I just open my bank account and the money's sitting there.
That was fantastic. Yeah. Again, brilliant and, really smart thing to do. So, I think that's probably where we should end this podcast here. And then on a future episode, we'll take over from here about how it went from you selling your business to being in this one for Results Grow, Roofer Grow, HVAC.
Yeah, I think
Grow.
the next one, let's dig into me and you sort of formulating this business, and the mistakes that we made along the way, and we got to frame it to what's going to help people watching the video the best. And I don't know what exactly it's going to be yet, but we'll figure it out. So we'll sort of give a little backstory to your business, and then
and how this kind of all started just before COVID, and 2.5 months in, we went, oh crap, what happens now? And it didn't go backwards. It went forwards. Crazy.
Yeah, no, you're right. It did help it in a weird kind of way. Also, we were very lucky to have a fully remote business during that time. So
exactly. Yep. All right. Any kind of plug you want to throw in here?
Just, if you want to chat with us, click the link below and you'll chat with our team, and we can talk about growing your business. And it's the same strategy as Canada Furnace. And we basically are less expensive than a ton of the big competitors. I'm sure you can find somebody on Craigslist working out of some foreign country that can do it cheaper than us. But other than that, we are high volume. We do amazing work, and we're a lot more affordable than other people. And we want to help as many customers as we can to provide as much value as you possibly can. So click the link to schedule yourself a time to chat with us.
And the marketing that we do and our monthly cost is probably less than somebody makes at McDonald's every month.
True.
Right. and you have a marketing company that specializes in home service businesses. So
Yep.
if
And
you're
it's a
looking
whole,
for that,
yeah, exactly. It's a whole
that's
back.
us.
It's what we applied from building up my business, applied to now hundreds of companies.
And if somebody wanted to send you a DM on Twitter, how would they do that?
DMs are open. Just click on the link. Just look for Steve Gadsby, SC Gadsby at Twitter,
SC Gatsby.
at SC Gadsby.
All right. Cool. And all right, yeah. So you can find it in the link below. If you want to see us on Facebook, just look for Results Grow on Facebook. We're there, and we're on this channel, obviously, on YouTube. And also subscribe to us on YouTube. Subscribe to us on podcasts, whatever podcast platform you use, whether it's Apple, Spotify, or whatever. That helps us. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts. That helps us a lot so that we can open this up to more people to see it. So if you can help us with that, great. And if any of this is helpful to you, leave a comment below here on YouTube. And if there's any questions there, we might even be able to answer them right in the comments below on this video. And that'll help us. So like, subscribe, leave a comment. That's very helpful to us. And we hope that you'll be with us on the next podcast. And also stick around on the channel, because we're going to be up throwing other tips, etc., for marketing or even business tips there that you can have a look at.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.